we all know that, time is your most valuable commodity. And I really, really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I'm going to do my best to honor that. So like I said before, as I'm talking, I really want to encourage you guys to take notes, and partly because I'm going to be doing this live Q&A at the end, but also because I'm sure that there's going to be some stuff that you're going to want to remember for later. So I hope you have like a pen and pencil handy. And then also, you can always, like I said, post questions and stuff in the chat field anytime. So, and if I see your question come through, I'll do my best to kind of address it as we go. And if I don't get to your question as I'm talking, I will absolutely 100% for sure answer it by the end of our time together. So that being said, let's get started, you guys. Oh, good. We're getting more people as we come along. That is amazing. And what I want to start by just posing a question to you guys, which is, do you guys feel that just because you're pregnant now, you're supposed to have your whole birth figured out? Like, okay, like how am I supposed to know if I want to go natural or do delayed cord clamping or the vitamin K shot or any of that stuff when I've never even felt a contraction? I don't know what's going on. Like, this is a new experience, right? So, if this sounds like you, if this sounds like something that you're feeling, this kind of pressure to know what the heck is going on and have it all figured out, you're in the right place. We're going to be talking about that for sure. And also ask yourself this, like, do you feel pressure just in general from everyone and their mother, some rando at the grocery store, your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, whoever, about how you're supposed to do it, like how it's supposed to be? And, oh my gosh, if you don't have an epidural, you're just, what are you trying to be, a martyr? Or, oh, you are getting an epidural? Why? Why do you want to drug your baby? Or what, you're having a home birth? I guess you want your baby to die, or, all this stuff that we feel these kind of things all the time. And if you're feeling that stuff, you are so not alone. We all feel that stuff. And I have a secret to tell you guys. It doesn't end after you have a baby. Everybody feels like you're public property the second you get pregnant. It seems like people just treat you like, oh, your business is my business now, and let me tell you. So we're going to talk about that today also. So I want to pose a hypothetical to you guys. What if it weren't like that? What if instead of this kind of pressure and maybe uncertainty and confusion that you're feeling, what would it be like for you to have a totally rock solid, guilt-free confidence about your birth, and you're totally ready to rock it with clarity and fearlessness no matter what happened? Like, imagine what that would be like for you guys. And, imagine what it would be like if you knew that no matter what surprises come your way on that big day, and we know that there's definitely going to be surprises. Nothing goes according to plan in life, especially not birth, right? The support that you have around you and the skills that you're going to gain throughout your pregnancy and the knowledge that you're going to gain throughout your pregnancy means that you could handle everything perfectly, even when those surprises come up. Imagine how amazing that would feel. I want to tell you guys that whatever your birth goals are, whatever you're planning, an unmedicated birth, a medicated birth, you have no idea what kind of birth you want to plan, whatever, if you're preparing for a birth right now, you're in the right place. Because today what I'm going to be doing is helping you resolve the biggest challenges that I hear all the time from my pregnant clients, which usually boil down to three major things: fear, pressure, and uncertainty. And I'm going to talk about that stuff so that I can show you how to find and stick to the plan that's right for you, no matter what other people think about it. Handle labor and surprises with confidence, even if you feel a little bit scared. And how to think outside of the box to overcome the obstacles that you might be facing right now in even preparing for your birth. So getting clear on all this stuff that we're going to talk about in planning your birth is the first step in planning a birth that's exactly right for you, with confidence, clarity, and fearlessness, not planning a birth that's really born out of fear and worry and pressure. So I hope that sounds amazing to you guys. I love it. I hope you can tell that I'm super passionate about what I do. And let me tell you a little bit about that before we get started. So just a little bit of background about me, how I became a birth worker. So I have 4 kids. Surprise, surprise, I have a ton of kids. My oldest kid is 13, and he was born back in the olden times of 2004, which seems like a million years ago. And I was one of those people that spent my whole life imagining what pregnancy and birth would be like. And I was so naive, you guys. And I can tell you that that entire first pregnancy and birth were a complete and massive disillusion for me. Like, oh, I thought before I got pregnant, like, oh, pregnant women are so beautiful. But guess what, you guys? Like, I felt like crap about my body before I got pregnant. Getting pregnant isn't a personality transplant. Like, I hated my body before I got pregnant. I felt the same thing after I got pregnant. I felt really ugly and embarrassed and ashamed about my body, not to mention the fact that, of course, like all the fun things that nobody tells you about before you get pregnant. I was constipated all the time. My back was killing me. And I'm not joking, you guys, that my husband literally compared me both to a whale and Santa Claus at 2 different occasions during that pregnancy. I'm not making that up. So, you know, that pregnancy, it was like a rude awakening for me. And then came my birth, which was also a huge disillusionment. I thought that I knew what I wanted. I thought I wanted a natural birth, whatever the heck that means. And I thought that by hiring a midwife, that kind of guaranteed this like beautiful, glorious experience with rainbows and unicorns and a halo around my head and a rainbow coming out of my crotch. But that did not happen, I can assure you. And I wound up having an elective induction at 39 weeks. That was just really for no reason. Just my midwife suggested it. And I was like, okay. And it really was not the best choice for me. I had a 3-day long labor with all these interventions and all this stuff, and it just wasn't great. And giving birth that way had just been nothing like what I had imagined. And my postpartum period was not great either, you guys. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was really struggling with depression and guilt and shame about how my birth went, about how my body was. And I was also feeling guilt and shame about my guilt and shame. It's a horrible mom guilt cycle. So it was just really rough. But a couple of years later, got pregnant with baby number 2. And the first thing I knew when I peed on that stick was, it is not going down that way this time. And I knew I wanted it to be different. And I did all of the things that I wish I would have done the first time around. I paid attention to my nutrition. I hired a doula. I thought really long and hard about my care provider. I took a really legit birth class instead of the like 2-day express birth class I took the first time, which was a total joke. And guess what? Big surprise. Being prepared and investing in myself made a huge difference. My second birth was completely different. It was like completely healing from my first birth experience. I felt so empowered. I seriously felt like a superhero afterwards, and it completely changed me for the rest of my life. You know, because once I had experienced firsthand these 2 different experiences, I was totally hooked. I was just like, people have got to know that what this can be, and how just preparing and approaching for birth with intentionality and confidence can completely transform birth from something traumatic or something that you just have to get through to have a baby to this really positive and empowering experience. And I don't want to be misunderstood here. I'm not saying that the reason why my second birth was so empowering is because I had this natural birth and it was a water birth and all that stuff. That was great because it was what I wanted. But the reason why it was healing and empowering was not because of the way my baby was born. It was because of the way that I was about my baby being born. Confident in myself, in the driver's seat, making my own decisions, and feeling like I knew what was going on around me. That's why that experience was a boss experience. So it doesn't matter what kind of birth you have, because you can have that empowering experience no matter what. So I don't ever want you guys to think that this webinar is about pressuring you to have a specific type of birth, because it really isn't. It's about finding your own path. So back to my story. After a few years of just flapping my gums about birth and how great it was to anybody who would listen, I finally decided to actually do something about this newfound passion, and I became a doula. And then a few years later, I added childbirth education to my practice, and after that, I added parent coaching, and now I provide support for parents all the way through their mothering life, whether it's during pregnancy or parent coaching after their babies are born. I even have clients with teenagers and stuff like that. It's really amazing. And in the birth world, as a birth worker, I've assisted at over 200 births, and I've taught countless families, and it is amazing. It is such an incredible honor to be part of this incredible transformative moment in a parent's life. But after many, many years of birth work, I started noticing a few patterns with my clients, and after discussing with my colleagues and peers and other birth workers, I knew that they were experiencing the same thing. And I just kind of decided that to the traditional model of doula care and childbirth education was really underserving families. And I also had a lot of clients who just couldn't fit into the traditional doula or education paradigm. So I decided to create something new that would work for any family that wanted to be educated, confident, and ready for their birth, no matter what their circumstances or what kind of birth they wanted. And that program is called Birth Like a Boss, and that's how I serve my clients now. And Birth Like a Boss, it's a huge comprehensive birth prep program that combines all the support, help, and information of traditional doula care, plus the complete emotional and physical education of a childbirth class. But it's done totally on your own terms and on your own time. But as you can imagine, it is way too big of a program for me to share with you guys all today in 1 hour. Hello, no way. But what I am going to do today is I'm going to share with you guys the biggest questions and challenges that come up so often with my clients so that you can be ready to craft your own birth plan that's just right for you and feel super confident about it throughout your whole pregnancy and during your birth, even when surprises are coming up and you have to kind of change things on the fly. And it doesn't matter how others react to your choices or how fearful you might feel. We're going to talk about all of that stuff today, because I see these feelings and pressures come up so often for my new moms, and eradicating this epidemic of mom guilt and worry from the birth experience is one of my biggest passions. So I'm going to be trying today to show you that you can approach your birth with peace, ease, and confidence on your own terms. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to talk to you guys about figuring out your own unique plan, regardless of pressure, judgment, or whatever might be coming at you. Then I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to minimize your fear. We're going to talk about those fears or worries so that you can handle your birth and the unexpected with confidence. Even surprises, we're going to talk about how to navigate that stuff. If something comes up that's unexpected at your birth, how to stay on track and not let it derail you. And I'm going to share with you guys how to prepare for your birth on your own terms, thinking outside of the box, creatively approaching your prep so that you can remove lots of stumbling blocks that many people face in trying to get ready. And then lastly, I'm just going to show you guys how we can continue this work beyond just a little 1 hour seminar if you guys are interested in doing that. So I'm going to do my best to fit as much juicy stuff into this hour as I possibly can, and I'm going to finish up with some time for Q&A. So make sure, like I said, take notes, and you feel free to post in the comments as well if you have questions. And then the last thing I want to tell you guys before we super dig in is this. This seminar, it's a positive and safe space for you to explore your hopes and dreams about birth and motherhood. So midwives that I work with, I hear them say all the time, worry is the work of pregnancy. And it is really, really true. And I'm sure you guys are already experiencing that every day, this worry feeling. But to truly form a birth plan that maximizes your odds of having the experiences you desire, it is crucial to focus on your ideal perfect vision. So, fears, objections, worries, all that stuff are really, really important to face and solve. But that's putting the cart ahead of the horse. So just for this 1 hour, I want you guys to give yourself permission to dream and envision and believe in the most wonderful birth you can imagine. And we'll talk about all that negative stuff later, okay? So let's get started. So the first thing I told you guys I was going to talk about, what is the best plan for you and how can you figure that out when you're dealing with maybe pressure from the people around you to birth a certain way or influence your birth plans, and also just confusion, not sure, right? So when I first started creating this seminar, I actually posted in my Facebook group and to all the mom groups I was in, what is your biggest challenge, or what was your biggest challenge in preparing for your birth? And I was really surprised at first by the response I got, because you guys, easily half of the responses I got were people saying something like, I felt guilty about my birth plan, or I was embarrassed to tell people what my plan was. And I don't know if that sounds crazy to you, but I bet it doesn't, because I bet you felt it too in some way. Like, for example, maybe you feel guilty because you want to get an epidural and people are telling you you're a terrible mother. Or maybe you feel guilty because you don't want to have an epidural and people are telling you you're a terrible mother. Or maybe you feel guilty because you don't really have a plan yet and people are telling you that you're a terrible mother. Or maybe you feel guilty because you do have a plan, and guess what, you guys? You're still a terrible mother, right? Because why? Why is it bad to have a plan? Oh, healthy mom, healthy baby. That should be enough for you, right? Okay, let's just talk about that for a second. So remember that whole craptastic birth that I told you about, my first birth story? I can tell you guys that of all the painful and devastating things that I felt through that experience, the worst and the biggest contributor to my depression was the constant refrain of healthy mom, healthy baby. Every time I tried to express anything less than 100% love and joy about my son or my birth or being a mom, it was healthy mom, healthy baby. Your baby's here, he's healthy. That's all that matters. You know, let all that other stuff go. And I know, and I knew then, that everyone was really just trying to assuage my negative feelings and help me feel better. I know that it was coming from a good place, but it really had the opposite effect because I just felt guilty. I felt guilty that I had hoped for something different than what I had gotten. I felt ashamed that I wasn't grateful enough for the fact that I had a baby at all and that he was healthy and all that stuff. I felt like there was something wrong with me, that I had this perfect baby and I couldn't be happier or let go of the disappointment I felt in how he was born. But I'm really grateful that I had that feeling and that realization, because that had a huge and profound effect on the way that I practice as a birth worker, because I learned that so many of us have hopes and dreams about birth and motherhood. Of course we do, you guys. I have a hope about how my next trip to the grocery store is going to go down. So I think birth, yeah, I think I'm going to have a pretty big dog in that race. Like, I'm going to care how it goes, right? So if you're feeling guilty for caring about this stuff, I want you to let that go. And I'm going to tell you even more about that, because everybody has those feelings. And guess what? Those feelings are unique, profound, and super valid for each mom. I want you guys to really hear that. Super valid. There's no one right way. We all know that. And the only best way is the unique way that honors each unique mom. So obviously, of course, we prioritize and value our babies and our health above everything else. Of course, that's a given. And in my opinion, to remind moms of that by saying healthy mom, healthy baby when they're feeling a pull for more is incredibly insulting, because it implies that, well, perhaps this mom doesn't care about that. Maybe, just maybe, she is so arrogant and so selfish and ungrateful that she completely disregards the health and well-being of her child and puts her own enjoyment and pleasure above her baby. You guys, mamas, in all my experience working with moms, I have never once met this mythical she monster. Never. Even the mom society shames and punishes, they still are not this horrible she monster. She doesn't exist, which is really great to know, because that means that you can care so much about how your birth goes and your birth experience, and you still could never be that person. You could never be that person who just doesn't even care about her baby's health and wellness. We know that. So it's even bigger than that, actually. Because you might not know this, but your hopes and dreams about birth are far more than just a whim or a daydream. Like, maybe they started out that way, but they're actually a huge reflection of who you are and what's actually going to work for you and your body when you're in labor. They're huge indications of the environment and circumstances that are most likely to allow you to relax and do what birth will require of you. So listening to and striving for your birth vision actually maximizes your odds of having a healthy, safe, and speedy birth. It's not selfish. Planning and preparing for the birth you desire is actually a gift you give your baby in a million ways. And on the other hand, being super wishy-washy about your birth vision is a great way to end up with a birth you didn't want and feelings of regret or like, what if, right? So, of course, we know that birth doesn't always, or basically ever, go as planned. We know that. But the solution to that is not to just not have a plan at all. Maybe you'll decide to change your plan during birth. Good for you. But if you want to create a situation that maximizes your odds of not having to change your plan, you need to tune in to how you want your birth to be first and foremost. getting super clear on this is going to make all your other choices so much easier. So if you're feeling guilty or pressure about having a plan, wanting a plan, or the specifics of your plan, I'm going to help you guys get past that right now, because not only is it not devaluing the healthy mom, healthy baby stuff, it actually is the key to healthy mom, healthy baby. So I'm going to show you guys how to get super crystal clear on your birth vision in just a few steps, and to use that clarity to rise above the haters, even your inner hater, if you have one, with ease. So if you're really confused about your birth right now, I think this is going to be really, really helpful for you. And it's really easy. It boils down to these 4 steps: connect, value, decide, and commit. So what the heck does that mean? Just a bunch of words, right? I'm going to tell you, so don't worry. Let's talk about connect first. Connect means connect with who you are and what you know. Before you even think about your birth plan, you need to spend time thinking about how you want your birth to be. And before you even think about how you want your birth to be, you need to think about, who are you? Who are you? Don't think about the birth at all at first. Don't think about that. Just think about, how do you approach life in general? What's your philosophy about your health and wellness? What's important to you? Really get clear on what you're all about and connect to that really deeply. Are you a super private person? Do you feel really comfortable in medical situations? Do you feel nervous in medical situations? Like all of those things. Then think about your birth. What is the feeling and energy you want to have at your birth? What do you believe about birth? What would be your ideal birth experience? Have you ever imagined or pictured giving birth before? What was it like to picture that? You don't have to have a complete birth plan right away at all. You don't have to have any of that stuff figured out. And you can totally do this stuff before you've even taken any classes or read any books, or even before you've hired a care provider or found a birthplace. Remember that it doesn't matter right now for this part. It doesn't matter if you're scared about birth right now, because I want you guys always making your decisions moving toward something you really want, not away from something you fear. Okay. Remember that we're focusing, just like we talked about before, we're focusing on your fantasy birth right now, the really amazing, perfect, awesome birth that feels super good to you. And fears are something that gets resolved later. So let yourself go there to the happiest, most optimistic birth you can imagine. Okay, so that's what connect means. Value, that's step 2, right? Value means recognize the real measurable value in preparing you for your birth and caring how it goes. So just like we were talking about before, how it really, really matters to craft the birth that you want. There's a huge value there. So because a lot of moms have this sneaky feeling that focusing on their birth experience or dreaming of a pleasant, positive birth is kind of selfish. Well, it's not. Just like we talked about before, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that a mother's emotional state during labor actually has measurable impact on her birth, in contraction patterns, in length of labor, in baby's transition when it comes out, all of those things. And it has a huge impact on your perception of pain. So actually having the birth that feels most comfortable and safe to you is actually going to make your pain be less, believe it or not. It's actually true. I promise. I'm not just making that up. So spending time thinking about what will feel best to you and working to make it possible is not selfish. It's listening to your body so that you can do the hard work of birthing a baby. It's momming. Working to have a birth that you love is a gift you give your baby, a gift during its birth for sure, just like we talked about, but it's actually also a gift for starting out your mother-child relationship on the right foot, because a positive birth experience promotes a postpartum period without the specter of depression, regret, or lengthy recovery hanging over your head. Yes, yes, healthy mom, healthy baby, of course. That's clearly the ultimate and most important goal, and one that goes without saying. But what is this? Like the Middle Ages? It's okay to want something more than just survival. Like survival, it cannot be our only metric of a good birth experience. It's okay to hope for more and just make it through to making it through to the other side. So drop the mom guilt and recognize that caring about you is caring about your baby. That's very, very true. And it's true after you have your baby as well. The next step is decide. That means that you take the vision of how you want your birth to feel and the value you place on that vision, and you use it. Use it to create your birth plan. Use it to decide, where do you want to have your baby? Birth center, hospital, home. Who should be there with you? Do you want a doula? Do you want a doctor or a midwife? Some people even choose to have an unassisted birth. How do you want your birth to be? Do you want to be med-free? Do you want to have anesthesia? Do you want to be in the bed? Do you want to be moving around? Do you want to give birth on all fours or squatting, or do you want to be laying down? Like all of those things. Remember that we're not focusing right now, we are focusing right now, on what we want. We're not focusing on the fears, yeah, buts, or what ifs, okay? Because fear is never a good influencer in a birth plan or on a birth. If you're scared of pain or emergencies at your birth, I totally get it, and we're not gonna just ignore that, but I just want you guys to put a pin in it right now and trust that we can resolve your fears later in your process. So my biggest tips for you in the decide category are research and educate yourself. Explore your local care providers and birthplaces, because you know what, you might find options you didn't even know were available, and you might surprise yourself by discovering that you are drawn to something you didn't even know you wanted. It's really important that your care provider and the birthplace you choose are supportive of the birth you want. So I'm going to give you guys an example of this. Like about a year ago, I had a client who, when she and her partner came to me, they were planning a birth in the hospital. And when we were talking, you know, she was saying, well, I really want this and I really want that. I'm not sure if the doctor's going to let me do this, but I really want to, and, you know, all this stuff. And, but you know, I really do want to go unmedicated, but I'm just not sure if the doctor's going to let me do this. But that's why we're going to hire you. So you, my doula, can kind of protect me if my care provider wants me to do something I don't want to do. And at one point, the husband even said to me, you're going to be kind of like our defense line, like a football player, our linebacker, protecting us. And I was like, time out, you guys, okay? Because if you need to hire someone to protect yourself from your care provider, you are not on the same page as your care provider. And we talked a long time about this stuff, and we talked about, like, you're telling me you want this, but you're choosing a place that's not going to give you that because you're afraid. And in the end, they wound up changing their birth location, and they were really pleased with where they chose it. And it was the place that was right for them. Like, I was actually trying, kind of encouraging them to do something different, but they didn't feel comfortable with that. And they chose their own place. It was a different place than they had started out with. And they were so happy with it in the end. She actually had an amazing birth. So that's a perfect example of, like, her choice to change care providers was her getting in line with what she really wanted and being really strong and advocating and saying, like, wait a minute, let me think critically. Is the place that I'm planning on having my baby actually in alignment with the birth I'm planning? And it wasn't. So that's a really great example of how important it is to have a care provider and birthplace that are going to support you in what you want, so that you're not paying this, like, I don't want to be a linebacker for you, and I don't want you to need a linebacker. So, and then the educate thing that I said is, you need to take a comprehensive birth class. You need to educate yourself about your options and how to handle the emotional, physical, and medical aspects of labor and birth. Taking a class, in my opinion, it is foundational. It's just non-negotiable. So what does it mean to take a comprehensive birth class? It means a class that lasts longer than a day, first of all. It's not taught by a hospital. And the reason why I say that is because a hospital has certain guidelines and requirements most of the time about how they're allowed to present things to you and what options they're allowed to present to you. And if you take an independent class, you're actually going to be presented with way more options that you might not have ever known were available to you. So it's really important to take an independent class. And it's a class that covers anatomy and physiology, labor coping techniques, medical procedures, and how to decide about them in the moment, what to do when surprises come up. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is emotional preparation. And a lot of childbirth classes don't cover that very well. So this is how that decide step helps you craft your birth plan, but it also starts getting those fears and anxieties resolved. And that's why it's super fundamental. And the last step I said is commit. Commit to sticking to your plan and feeling super great about your plans, regardless of what others say. And if this part seems like the hardest to you, I totally know, especially when judgment or pressure might be coming from your closest family. You guys, I really, really know. I know firsthand from my own personal experiences, and I know because I see it all the time in my business. But the good news is that it doesn't have to feel that way. The choice is really yours if those things are going to make you feel badly or not. So here's my hack for making you guys feel like a badass when people are crapping all over your birth plan. My tip to you guys is forget about yourself. And I hate that that hack works. I hate that this advice worked because it flies in the face of everything my business is about. It flies in the face of everything I've said all the way up until now, right? But it's the quickest way to get you to like boss birthing status. Forget about yourself. What that really means is that you know and feel in your deepest self that your birth plan is the best thing for your baby. It's the best because you chose it with knowledge. It's the best because you know that feeling comfortable, relaxed, and safe is the way to have the healthiest, smoothest labor and birth. It's the best because you're your baby's mom, dang it. And what does that mean? It means no one in the entire world knows better than you what's right for your baby. Moms, this is what I really want you guys to take away from this, and it's going to completely help you throughout the rest of your life as a mother, is when we let other people sway us from something we know is right for our kids, we are unwittingly saying other people's opinions, beliefs, and feelings are more important than my child. And I know that you don't believe that. That's crazy talk. I know that you never want to get stuck in that trap. None of us do. We do not want to feel that way about what we're doing with our kids. And I know from experience that this trap does not end at birth, you guys. You will be put in this position for the rest of your mothering life. A position where the people around you think that what you're doing for your kid might be wrong or not, isn't the best. And you have to really reconnect with yourself and double check, like, well, do I believe that? No, I don't. I do believe that what I'm doing is the best for my kid. So aligning with your authenticity and what's right for you and your family now is going to help you sail past this kind of pitfall over and over and over again as your mom life continues. So whenever you feel that doubt, guilt, or pressure creeping in, I want you to forget about yourself. Put your baby first and stand up for yourself as only a mama bear can. Sticking to your plan is in your baby's best interest, and everything else can just float away. Just let it go like water off a duck's back. So if you've done all 4 of these, this value, connect, educate, and commit steps, you're ready to get the resources and support you need to execute your plan and feel really good about your decisions, no matter what. With the right help, the rest of your choices will easily fall into place and solutions will present themselves to you where before you felt totally stuck. It's one of the favorite things that I actually get to do in my empowered birth sessions is just helping moms identify and embrace and then figure out how to execute their own birth plan. It's really amazing to see that even just in 1 hour, what a change a mom can feel going through that process. So let's talk about the fear stuff. Remember I told you to put a pin in that? What if you feel like birth is so scary and dangerous? Or what's the point of preparing when it's all just a crapshoot anyway? Or gosh, my pain tolerance is so low, I'll probably just cave and get the epidural, even if I plan not to. Or what if there's an emergency and I need to totally change my plan? I totally get that. And let's talk about it. You guys, let's face it. The biggest question on everyone's mind that I hear all the time is this going natural question, or really when you boil down to it, it's like, how bad is this going to hurt? I hear that all the time. And some moms are just even afraid to ask that question. So, for many of us, the birth of our kid is the first experience we have with birth. Or our only knowledge about birth is from TV or horror stories from super helpful people like family, friends, or totally random strangers at the grocery store, or some lady who's giving a birth seminar tells you about her first birth experience, right? No wonder we're all scared of being in pain and conflicted about the anesthesia question. No wonder everyone's constantly thinking about emergencies and things going wrong. Of course, these are really big questions. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this fear and the pain aspect of labor. It's really, really important for you guys to openly face and deal with your fears around birth. And we all have them. Even me, with my 4th kid, still had some demons to exercise when it came to worries and anxiety about my birth. So Remember that your emotional state, just like we've been talking about all along, it really does affect your labor. And so being terrified is a really great way to stall everything out. And the real biochemical reason for that is that when you're scared, adrenaline is coursing through your body, and that adrenaline literally counteracts the effects of all the other labor hormones in your body. So it's so important for you to be safe, comfortable, relaxed, all of that stuff. Does that mean that you should just hedge your bets and avoid all the scary stuff? No way. No way, you guys. So I can't tell you guys how many times I've done a session with a client, just like I was telling you about that interview that I did before, who tells me, oh, I've always imagined having such and such, like I don't know, let's say a home birth, for example, describes this great feeling that she wants to have at her birth and all this stuff, and then says, but I know that might not work out and it can be dangerous, so I'm just going to have my baby, in the hospital. I probably can't do it anyway. My pain tolerance is really low, blah, blah, blah. You guys, that mom just made a birth plan that is literally only informed by her fears and self-doubt, and literally has nothing to do with the things that she wants to have. So do you think that she's going to feel great about her birth experience? Probably not. And she's probably not going to feel relaxed in the place that she's chosen to have her baby. And do you think that being outside the environment she wanted to birth in is going to influence the way her birth goes? You bet your butt it's going to. It definitely will, you guys. This is not voodoo, new age, weirdy, tutti fruity stuff. It is literally documented science. So we have to face our fears so that they can stop owning us. What can we do to get our fears in check and know that even if the proverbial dookie hits the fan or whatever, we can still make great decisions, we can still roll with the punches, and we can still feel confident. So I'm going to give you guys 2 huge things that I do with my clients in my Birth Like a Boss program when I'm teaching childbirth education and when we have our one-on-one sessions. 2 steps that are really, really important. These are really the keys to making spur-of-the-moment decisions that you feel really good about. You don't have regrets later on when you're looking back on it. And they're the steps in mitigating fear so it doesn't dominate your birth. So obviously, when I'm working one-on-one with a client, this goes way deeper than what we have time to do today, but I'm just going to give you guys like a little taste. So basically, it's all about facing your fears and using your brain. And then if that sounds super lame, I know it does, but it's not. So just buckle in. I'm going to explain it, and it's not lame, I promise. So first and foremost, facing your fears. That sounds simultaneously super easy and impossible. Like, oh, just turn your frown upside down. No, that's not what I'm saying. Gag me. That's gross. Of course, addressing our fears is hard. And I would never sit here and tell you that you can eradicate your fear in this one simple step. That's crazy talk. And if anybody does come at you with those kind of language, run for the hills. I know firsthand how hard it is to change something that's so deep and scary. But I also know that because fear and anxiety have a big effect on your birth, looking your fears head on is crucial in preparing for birth. So it's a big part of Birth Like a Boss, and I spend time throughout the program helping parents flip their fears around so that their fear doesn't dominate. The goal is never to eradicate your fear. Your fear might never go away, but it's about managing your fear so that it doesn't control or dominate your birth. So when we have fears or anxieties and ignore them, we are subconsciously reinforcing them by giving the message to ourselves that this fear is way too big for me to face or handle. I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. So obviously, this is a big deal, and it's a big tangle to unravel. It's hard to do it alone. But I'm going to demonstrate an example for you guys so you can see that it is possible to do it. The steps you go through in class are, there are 4 steps in this kind of fear exercise. Looking your fear in the eye, following your fear, identifying mitigation steps, and doing them, taking action. So let me give you just a little micro example. So let's say I've already done the part we talked about. I have this birth plan. It's all about my fantasy birth, which, let's just say it's a unmedicated water birth, okay? But I'm really afraid that the pain is going to be way too much for me. I'm going to end up regretting my choice of having this natural birth, or maybe I'm going to decide to get the epidural and I'm going to feel like a loser and all this stuff. So to deal with this fear, I follow those 4 steps. I first name it. I'm afraid I won't be able to give birth without anesthesia. Then the next step, follow that fear. That means like follow your fear to where it goes. Imagine that your fear is coming true. I'm going to imagine it's coming true just the way I dread. I'm in labor and it's so hard and intense. I thought I could do it, but I just can't deal anymore. This is too crazy. The people around me are trying to support me and stuff, but I finally decide to go for the epidural and I get it. And my discomfort is gone. The epidural works, but I feel really bummed about it. I feel kind of embarrassed or ashamed. Maybe I let myself down. Maybe I was kind of wimpy, or I let my partner down or my baby down, or I don't know, whatever. The people around me are sympathetic and understanding, but I still feel super disappointed. This is my imagining of like what's happening if this fear comes true. So what do I do in that moment? I tell my team how I feel, and I get a lot of support and encouragement and understanding from them. They work with me to help me shift my thinking about it, and I'm able to relax and give myself some grace about it. And then what happens? My birth continues, and in the end, I have my beautiful baby in my arms, and I'm surrounded by love. Do I still want to have an unmedicated birth? Yes, I still want that. That's still my birth vision. Do I still hope I can do it without the epidural? Yes, that's still my birth vision. But do I feel a little better after imagining how my birth could be the thing I fear and still be okay? Hell yeah. Like, it makes a huge difference. It gets me out of that panic state. So now I can do the next step. I can identify the things that will help me both A, minimize the likelihood that my fear will come true, but also B, keep that feeling of acceptance around my undesired outcome. And then I can do that fourth step, which is taking action. I can do the things I've identified, like, for example, practicing coping techniques and getting educated, choosing a supportive care provider, telling my team how I want them to treat me and take care of me if I do get the epidural, all of those things that I can do to help minimize the chances that my fears are going to come true. So obviously, you guys, this is a super simplified version of a really deep process, but the exercise is still powerful. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. Like, I had just my first birth session with a woman who wound up being a client. She was planning a VBAC. She had a C-section with her first baby, and she wanted to have a vaginal birth a second time. And she was terrified. Her first birth was like really traumatic. She told me all about it. And I asked her, okay, well, what's the birth you're planning this time? And she told me all those things. And then I asked her, like, well, tell me what you want your birth to be like. Like, what would you like it to be if it was really awesome and great? And she, she kept saying, like, well, I want it to be relaxing and calm, and I want it to be quiet, and I want it to be unmedicated, and I want people to support me, and I want people to tell me what's going on and make sure that I, know what's happening and that I'm being respected and all of that stuff. And I said, well, do you feel that way with the plan that you have right now? And she said, well, it was the same as this other mom, like, just, well, not really, and all this stuff. And I finally was able to say, like, right now, I feel like you're so afraid of the stuff that happened to you at your first birth that you're not able to actually even imagine that what you want is possible, or let yourself be excited about this birth or plan the birth that you want to have. And so we did this fear exercise, really simple, just the way I've described it to you guys. Like, it actually probably was shorter than what I've described to you. And it was like watching like a flower bloom in front of me. And I never expected her to do this. She completely changed her birth plan and wound up having this amazing VBAC at a birth center that she never was planning that until she got those fears out of the way. So if she hadn't gone through that fear-facing process, she never would have been able to plan this birth that she really wanted. So I want to challenge you guys to try this with one fear you have about your birth and tell me how it goes. Keep in touch. Let me know. If you're in the Facebook group, post it in the group. You all have my email address, so feel free to share it. I really want to hear how this goes for you guys. And so let's talk about this other part. Remember I said facing your fears and using your brain? What does that mean? Use your brain. Brain is just an acronym. I use acronyms all the time in my childbirth class, and sometimes they're annoying, but they're really handy because they help you remember everything. So I use brain in my classes to help guide my clients through, making decisions about their birth plans before they're in labor and changing their birth plans on the fly when they need to. So each letter in the word BRAIN stands for a question you can ask yourself about the choice you're making. So B stands for benefits. What are the benefits of making this choice? Why is it being recommended or presented to me? Why might someone choose this? How will it help or enhance the safety or health of your birth? R stands for risk. What are the downsides? What are the possible negative effects of going in this one direction? How might it impede or decrease the health and safety of your birth? A means alternatives. Is there anything else you can consider? Maybe there are options that are not being presented to you. Like, for example, oftentimes Pitocin is offered as a way to get labor going, but you have another option you can use, which is nipple stimulation. Releases actually even more oxytocin than what taking Pitocin does, and can be a totally natural way to get your labor going more. So, but that might not even be presented to you. So think alternatives. Is there another option that might help you achieve the result you want? But it feels better to you, more in alignment with your plan or safer or whatever. I is an extremely important, but it's often neglected step, which is, what does your intuition tell you? Don't discount your gut, you guys. It's super important. Maybe, for example, everyone's saying that you need to get an epidural because you're going to run out of energy. You've been at this for a long time, blah, blah, blah. But you feel great, and you just know in your mind, like, I don't need it. I'm good. I want to do this. Like, I can do this. That's your intuition, okay? Intuition does not mean, what do you want? What do you hope? What do you wish? There are many times at a birth where something comes up, and even though it's not what we want at all, our gut is telling us that it really is probably the best way to go. Like, oh man, this isn't what I planned. This isn't what I want, but I know I need to go there, and I'm ready to do it. Listen to that voice. And the last thing is N. It's another unsung hero in birth management. Doing nothing. What happens if we just let this run its course for a little while? Like, in a moment when something's being suggested to you, is it really necessary to do anything at all? Is immediate action needed, or can we have some time to let things progress on their own and think about the situation some more? I cannot tell you how many times I have seen patience be the most effective obstetric tool. I was at a birth a couple of years ago. This mom was doing great, but she just was kind of like slowing down. Like, she just wasn't dilating that fast. She was kind of like stagnating in her progression. And the midwife came in and was like, I really think you need a C-section. We've been at this for a long time. It's not working. Your baby's not descending in your pelvis, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, this mom is like still laboring pretty gangbusters, but she's not dilating, and the baby's not descending or whatever. And this midwife was so gung-ho to have this C-section, even though the baby looked fine in the monitors. The mom wasn't really ready to do that yet. The midwife comes in with the paperwork for the epidural, or the C-section, and as my client is reaching over to try to sign this paperwork, she starts making the most loud, grunting, pushing sounds out of nowhere. And the midwife, which was really upsetting to me, she thought she was kind of faking it, like trying to avoid having a C-section by pretending she was ready to push or something like that. And finally, after like 4 or 5 contractions where this mom was like seriously bearing down, the midwife checked her, and she was fully dilated and pushing her baby out. All that was needed at that birth was for everyone to just wait a minute. So ask yourself, what happens if you do nothing? And during your planning, when things come up during your birth, ask yourself all these questions, whether it's before your birth and you're planning, or during your birth and you need to make a decision on the fly. What are the benefits, risks, and alternatives to these choices? What does your intuition say? And what happens if you do nothing right now? So when you've implemented all the stuff that I've outlined up until this point of our seminar, you are so far ahead of the game, you guys. You might not think you're ready, and you probably aren't yet all the way, but you have no idea how few people even make it this far in getting ready for their birth. Most people just are either so scared or so, I don't know, confused about their birth that they just really do nothing and just kind of wander into the hospital when they're in labor and kind of wing it. So if you right now have gone through all these steps, that means you have some ideas about how to craft and feel great about your birth plan. And you know a little more about how to minimize fears and make spur of the moment decisions. That's amazing, you guys. Like, seriously celebrate that. But how are you going to implement all this great learning? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about figuring out what steps are right for you and creatively moving past stumbling blocks. So if I've done my job so far, I don't need to convince you any further that preparing for your birth is important and that you can create the birth plan you feel confident and fearless about. But I think you can also see that it's hard work, and it's even harder when we do it on our own. We can read YouTube, Facebook all day long, But unraveling those inner demons, connecting to our true birth visions, doing all this hard work of birth and transition to motherhood can really bring you to your knees if you're doing it on your own. So it feels really reassuring to have a team investing in you every step of the way, educating you, supporting you, encouraging you before, during, and after your birth. So there's a million ways to build that team and get that support. And it's really important for you guys to know that but you can find what you need no matter what your circumstances are. So the most important things that people usually benefit from when they think about birth preparation are childbirth education and doula care. And thorough, helpful childbirth education, it takes time and dedication. The traditional model of education is a group class that meets several times over many weeks for several hours each time. And they can be amazing, really wonderful resources for the people who have access to them and have the time, availability, and childcare if you have older siblings. So that can be a really great option. Doulas are also a huge help in creating your birth plan and supporting you during your birth. If you feel comfortable having another person in your birth room, that can be great, but not everybody fits in these models. And sometimes people need more. Maybe you're not sure you want an extra person at your birth, but you kind of do want all the prenatal and postpartum stuff that a doula provides. Or maybe your care provider advised you that it's not necessary to have a doula. That happens a lot with my home birthing clients, actually. Maybe you just don't live close enough to a class location, or your work schedule, or having older children makes attending a traditional birth class really hard. Or maybe you just want to do it differently. It doesn't matter. That's fine. No problem. You still have so many options. And I really want you guys to really believe that nothing should stand in your way from getting the support and preparation that you want for your birth. So like I said, very early when we first started talking, like after a long time of doing this work, I noticed patterns in my families and in the families my colleagues were supporting that were really just showing me that the traditional model of doula care and childbirth education was underserving some people for the reasons I outlined before, and also because some of these clients were winding up seeing me, their doula, as a reason they were able to have the birth they planned. This concept of like, oh, I'm going to take my power back from the medical establishment. Well, that's really great, but then don't give it to me. Keep it for yourself. So this is exactly the opposite of what I wanted for my clients. I'm not the reason you can give birth, and I want you to know that by the end of your birth, however it goes, that you are incredible, brave, strong, and capable without anybody else there, so that you can go forward in your motherhood with confidence and self-trust. So I finally decided to create this program I told you guys about, Birth Like a Boss, that it works for any family. So if you have a doula at your birth, that's wonderful. And I want you to know that you can do it with or without her. She's a huge help. She's a support, an extra set of hands you need, but she's not the reason you can do it. I never want to hear another mom say to her doula, oh, I couldn't have done it without you. Because that's just not empowering moms. So obviously I'm proud of Birth Like a Boss. I think that's clear. And I feel that it's a really perfect combination of traditional and modern approaches to education and support. But there's a million other virtual education programs out there and other ways to get this support. And even some hospitals are starting to offer them. Birth Like a Boss is a little bit different because it's not just education. It also has like emotional prep and pre and postnatal doula support on top of education, and it also includes like one-on-one work on top of that self-direction. So it's a little bit different, but the point is that alternative programs are available to moms everywhere and that they work. That was the big question mark for me when I started Birth Like a Boss. I'm like, I'm really passionate about this, but is it going to work? Like, are people even going to try it? You know, I didn't know. And would they be able to have the same transformation and empowerment when it was over a computer? But you know, like maybe it would be watered down or impersonal or something. But I'm actually really proud of my Birth Like a Boss clients so far. Have had amazing outcomes and profound transformations both with and without doulas at their birth. So I feel really, really proud that I've created this program. So, and that's not just wonderful news for me and for my program, but that it's really great for this new modality of connection and education that makes comprehensive, evidence-based, personal birth support accessible to anybody with an internet connection and the desire. So I never want you guys to let any challenge in discovering, learning, enabling, or executing your birth plan, you know, I don't want those challenges to stop you. There's always a solution. Maybe it's Birth Like a Boss, maybe it's something else, but it doesn't matter. The answer is out there. So you guys, I have seen firsthand, both professionally and personally, the difference that this kind of education and partnership and confidence make in birth. Because I know that like everything that happened at my first birth could have been prevented if I had just had someone in my corner educating me and believing in me when my confidence waned. You know, like I spent my whole life suspecting that birth could be this incredible, joyful, and empowering experience, but I couldn't figure out how to make it happen on my own. And then to have found that path with my second birth, it just showed me all the more clearly like how amazing and what potential birth has, and that we as women hold that potential inside of ourselves. And it's really rare in life to have such a stark demonstration of how different something can be when just a few little components that lead up to it are changed. So now I see moms every day struggling with these same feelings of uncertainty, fear, guilt about what they want. And it's such a bunch of BS, you guys, because it does not have to be that way. And that's why I created my business. That's why I created Birth Like a Boss. This birth is yours and your baby's and no one else's. Stress, fear, and anxiety have major impacts on birth outcomes. You can't afford to choose a plan that doesn't fit you just to please someone else. You won't be able to do what needs to be done to birth this baby if you're doing it on someone else's terms. Choosing the path that's right for you is a gift you're giving your baby, because it's a huge factor in the likelihood of a smooth, quick, and gentle beginning or side for that little baby. I'm so lucky to have had the birth experiences I did, because I never would have had the vision or passion for birth and the sisterhood that I feel with other moms without those experiences. So what I want to do for you guys today is offer you something that normally is not free. Because I know how profound even one meeting with a birth worker who understands how to help you prepare for birth can be, I want to offer that to you. Usually my individual sessions normally sell for like $150 a person. But today I'm offering free empowered birth sessions to everyone on this call. So if you're ready to see how you can tackle your unique challenges and figure out your birth plan and make it happen, I want you to take a chance right now and book this time with me. I'm actually going to be posting a link in the comments, and you can click on it right now and go and book your spot. I'm seriously not even joking, you guys. It'll take 10 seconds. So during these sessions, what do I do? Is it an hour-long sales pitch? No. My whole business is about creating value, and my empowered birth sessions are no joke. I spend that time with you creating a sense of clarity about your labor experience, the experience you want to have. We talk about your fears. We build, we discover these like essential building blocks that you need to do to have this birth happen for you, and the things that might be stopping you from manifesting that birth vision. And by the time you leave the session, you're going to have crystal clarity on exactly what to do next, the most powerful actions you can take towards creating that birth and making it actually happen. So if you're like me, you might be thinking, oh, I'm definitely going to sign up for my appointment, a free session with a birth worker. That sounds great. As soon as I'm on my computer later, I'm going to do it, right? Well, if you're like me, what's also probably going to happen is that you'll have every intention of getting your one-on-one session booked and then forget about it. Am I right? Come on, you guys. We all do that. I do that all the time. But I don't want that to happen for you. This is a free hour to spend with a certified birth professional and answer any questions you have, get your birth plan going. I do not want you to miss out on this. Like, I want to meet with you guys. So I'm going to try to inspire you guys to take immediate action for yourself instead of putting yourself on the back burner. So anybody who signs up for your session within the next 24 hours, you're also going to get copies of 2 really, really helpful tools that I usually only share with my paying clients. You'll be getting my birth planning worksheet that we go through step by step. When I work with my clients, we go through it step by step to make your birth plan and really talk about all your choices every step of the way. And I'm going to give you guys my guide to hiring a doula, what to think about, what questions to ask, how to do it, where to find doulas, all that stuff. These 2 guides are really, really helpful, and I use them all the time in my one-on-one sessions. And I'm going to give them to you guys, anybody who signs up for a session in the next 24 hours. And there's one more thing I'm going to give you if you sign up in the next 24 hours, which is only for these guys that are going to sign up in these, in the next day. You're going to receive membership in my closed Whole Woman Happy Family Facebook group, which I normally only make available to my paying clients. And in that group, I post coaching videos that I don't share anywhere else on the internet, as well as it's an amazing community for support, accountability, encouragement from me, but also from everybody else in the group. So it's a really helpful group for everybody in shepherding you, through your pregnancy, from pregnant to postpartum mama and beyond that. So it's a really special offer, you guys. I have never given this stuff away before, so don't miss out. And obviously this free session is available to you anytime, but those bonus gifts are only for those who act in the next 24 hours. So I really encourage you guys to invest in the 10 seconds it takes to open that email, click on that link, and snag your free session. And I also just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to be here with me today. It's super powerful to be able to share this stuff with you. And I want to just open the floor up now for any questions you guys might have. So I just posted the link in the comments. So while we're kind of doing questions and answers, you can also click on that link and get signed up for your session. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions you want. Doesn't have to be about what we talked about. It can be about anything. And you can also post your questions in the chat box. And if I'm just going to wait and see if anyone has any questions right now. Can be about anything. And for you guys who are here in Denver, I'm happy to answer questions about care providers, birthplaces, all that stuff. I'm happy to tell you about my births, anything you want. And if nobody has any questions, I'll wait for a couple more minutes and then I'll say goodbye. I'm waiting for the first brave person. Don't make me call on you. No, just kidding. I wouldn't do that. All right, guys, your last chance to ask me any question you have under the sun. Oh.
Hey, Ann, this is Emily. How are you?
Hi, Emily. Awesome. I'm so glad. I was about to feel super sad. No one was asking me questions.
Well, I actually signed on really late to this. It was like 12 o'clock because my mother-in-law called and she had some things she needed to talk to me about. And I was like, I gotta go. But I can watch this again, did you say?
Yeah, so I'm recording right now, and I usually will share, especially for the people who attended live, I'll share the recording with you in a later email.
Okay.
About that. But if there's anything, don't worry. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask, because even if it's something we talked about before, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a different way.
Yeah. I know we have a consult tomorrow at my time 4. Yeah. So, and I also said that I couldn't, I might be driving, but I'm going to have, audio on. And that's okay with you as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's fine. I always feel like it's best if we can see each other, but,
As soon as I get home, I will do my best.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry. And I know that this is your second birth. Is that right, Emily?
Yes.
So that means that I totally get that you have mama duties on top of pregnancy duties right now. Sometimes
yes.
we're multitasking that way. We kind of have to catch as catch can, and I totally get that. So don't worry.
Yes.
And all of my empowered birth sessions, I record them also, obviously with your permission. So you'll get, if you decide that you want to work with me going forward, you'll get a recording of our meeting.
Awesome. Okay.
You're a little bit distracted when you're driving or whatever. You don't have to worry I wanted to write that down or something.
Well, I did have a birth plan with my first child, and things did, obviously don't always go as planned.
Right.
Which it didn't, but just that I have some fears with this next one, and just kind of trying to work those out. And I have been, for sure, but there's always a nervousness with it that I'm still dealing with. So
yeah, I totally hear that. And that's I noticed right when you I think when you logged in, we were right in the middle of talking about the fear stuff, and I was like, oh no.
I know. I know. I was I took notes, started right away. But awesome. I apologize about that. I feel rude.
Not at all. It's a resource for everyone to use the best they can, and we're all
okay.
We're all trying to get a nut in this world, so don't worry.
All right.
Thanks for chiming in, Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions you want. I have no holds barred on any any gory birth stuff you want to ask me. Any questions about my work? Anything about my kids? About my own births? I'm happy to tell you guys anything you want to know. I think that's Emily again.
Anne?
Yes. Hi, Ashton.
Hi. Well, I first just wanted to thank you so much for this. But I just wanted to ask, so the link that you sent in the chat, is that going to be in the email as well, or should I click on that now?
I would encourage you to click on it now and set up
your
system, just because I know you also have a child too.
Yes.
So, mama life, like you're just going to put yourself on the back burner. Let's be honest.
Right.
So I would encourage you to do it. Obviously that link works all the time, but I would encourage you to do it right now. But yeah.
Okay.
And, do you have any questions or anything?
I have plenty, but I won't. I'll probably just email you or kind of wrap my head around everything.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Everyone's going their own way. That's fine. If you guys have questions, I guarantee other people are interested in what you have to ask. So I know from like years and years of teaching group childbirth classes that anytime anyone asks a question, it has never happened where the other students in the class are like, everyone's like,
yes.
Oh, yeah, what do you think about that? Oh, that's a good question. So don't be afraid.
Well, I have like a selfish question that kind of pertains to what I'm going through right now, but basically like just staying healthy through like the morning sickness and the cravings. Like I feel like as of now I want that healthy start to this second pregnancy.
Yeah.
But I feel like in order to feel better, I'm eating crackers or like just eating the worst thing possible.
Yeah. So are sweet things tasting the most doable to you right now?
No, it's chips, like salty, everything.
Okay, yeah. So how far along are you? Do you mind?
I'm 13 weeks, and I was sick with my first pregnancy through like 17 weeks. So I'm hoping it'll be a little bit earlier this time, but
so usually the tides turn around now, but for some moms it takes longer, like you already learned the hard way.
Yes.
What I would say is oftentimes my mantra when it comes to pregnancy nutrition is protein, protein, protein.
Okay.
And I know that when you have morning sickness, some of the last things you want to eat are like eggs or meat or stuff like that. I totally get that. But one of the things that makes us be nauseous is having like this up and down, blood sugar. It's really bad for us. And it also causes horrible energy swings, which we're already experiencing anyways because we're pregnant.
Right.
So my advice to you is to get protein. Like I would love to see you eating like 6 times a day and making sure that every time you eat, there's protein is present there. And be creative when you think about protein. It does not have to be meat or eggs. I mean, it's great if you do like those things and you can. Yeah. But if you can't stay in those things, the things I work the most with my clients on when they're in your boat is Greek yogurt. If you're not, are you vegan or anything?
No, but I've really loved like Noosa's, but I didn't know if that's like too much sugar or.
Noosa has a ton of sugar in
I
it.
know.
Really good. Like I keep Noosa as like a dessert.
Right. Totally.
Switch to Greek yogurt. It doesn't have to be like plain and it can be full fat, all that stuff. But just like Greek yogurt is really good. Also, protein shakes if they're good protein sources.
Okay.
Like the clients that I work with and are really struggling, I really encourage them to do isogenic shakes because it's an undenatured whey, which means it's going to be a lot gentler on your tummy and it's actually higher quality protein. And we also have vegan shakes that are not soy. So, so those, like, I'm just trying to say, you don't have to do isogenics. I think that's great if you do, but anything that's going to be a source of protein for you. And as far as like staying healthy throughout your pregnancy, if you like my kind of rule with myself, which I don't think you should have any hard and fast rules about food when you're pregnant because, God loves you. But But the kind of rule of thumb that I try is like anytime that you're feeling peckish, especially if you're craving sweets or garbagey food, just eat something with protein first. It could even just be a handful of almonds or an apple with peanut butter on it or something. And then wait like 15 minutes or 20 minutes and see if you're still really craving that. Because a lot of our bodies crave super quick carby food when really because super quick carby food is a super fast source of energy.
Yeah.
And what your body really needs is something that's a low, slow, sustained source of energy so that you don't have those cravings. And that's what protein is.
Okay.
So that's my best advice to you. And just, hang in there and give yourself some grace, Ashton, because you know what? It's okay. I made my first kid out of maple syrup and Snickers Poppables. And
well, no, I know. I feel like it's like a downward spiral when you crave something and then you eat it, then you just feel crappier. And then I feel like you kind of get stuck in this hole of eating like crap. So
totally. And that's the other thing I would say is like, do not throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, I know that's a horrible pun to make when we're pregnancy. It's like, so what? You had a bad day. Don't like ruin the rest of your pregnancy. You're going to have so much more energy. You're probably going to gain less weight, which is going to mean that you're more mobile and less miserable. And I don't care about your weight gain in terms of like, oh, you're so fat. I don't give a shit about that. Sorry for my what I do care about is I don't want you to feel like exhausted and that you can't move. Miserable. And then like when you're in labor, like it's harder for you to, be mobile and stuff like that, and back pain and, all the stuff that comes with weight gain. So
totally.
You got to let your body do what it's going to do. But if you feed it what it needs, it's going to do that stuff a lot better. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that's like where my issue lies. It's not even the weight gain because I know that happens inevitably, but it's just the fact that like I have no energy from eating the carbs and stuff, and I want to feel.
It's not going to give you energy. It's just going to make you super tired. So really try with the protein. Be creative. Experiment.
Okay.
And if you sign up for a session with me, we can talk about that more specifically.
Yes, I'm going to right now before I forget.
I hope I'll talk to you soon then.
Okay, thank you so much again.
You're welcome. I'm happy to stay on as long as there's questions. So if anybody else has more questions, feel free to chime in. I seriously love this stuff, you guys. I could do it all day. So and if nobody else does chime in, then I'll sign off. I'll give you guys one more minute. I know we've gone over time, but I don't count Q&A as far as in my time. So I don't mind going over when it comes to that. All right. Looks like nobody else is going to chime in with questions. I hope I see all of you guys signing up for these sessions and I can answer your questions then, hear more about you guys individually and what you guys want for your burrs. I really, really, really loved being here with you guys today. This is like, man, this is like my sweet stuff. This is what I get off on. So, oh, and I'm going to show you one last thing before I go. You guys see my earrings? They're crowning babies. One of my old doula partner got me these for my birthday one year, and I kept them as like a good luck charm. So I wore them today, and I think they worked. I had some good luck with you guys. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Sunday. I know I am going to, because I've been nervously looking forward to this all week, and now it's behind me, and I can just work on working with you guys one-on-one and meeting you guys in person and all that stuff. Love you guys. Thanks so much. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.